everybody. I'm here with the amazing Antonio Stecco. Antonio, wonderful to see you.
Well, great to have you here and have this occasion.
I know, finally in Montreal, we've made it to Canada this year. I'm curious. You have been a part of the fascial community for, well, as long as I know. What have you seen? Well, first of all, from your perspective, what's all this fascia stuff? Who cares about fascia? Why is fascia important? Why do you think fascia has become such a buzzword?
Well, who should not care about fascia? That is the question. It's easy. It's fast the answer. I mean, everybody should care because you can go from a sport performance to regular person with pain, with neurological patient. So it's really, fascia is a key element of our body. It's part of our body. It's one of the major tissue of our body. So it's something that has to be taken into consideration. It's a pity that in 2022 people are not even aware that this fascia exists.
Exactly. So now we're using scientific classification. We're considering fascia a tissue, and now we're saying, no, wait a minute, it's the largest sensory organ. Oh, wait a minute, is it a system? And when I look at fascia, I think of it as a system of stability, and not just stability on a macro level, like it's stabilizing our muscles and our bones to give our joint shock absorption, but on a cellular level, because the extracellular matrix is the environment where our cells behave. When we look at stability, could we not consider fascia a system and not just a sensory organ?
Well, we're working on that. I mean, for sure, it's an organ. It's not a simple tissue because the dense connective tissue, loose connective tissue, we have free nerve endings inside. On top of that, of course, is something more global. That works for stability, is true, but can work for some mobility in relation if the different layers can glide between each other or not. Let's take in consideration, for instance, the area of the fascia lata over the IT band. The proximal part of the fascia lata, the three layers glide properly because the hip have 3 degrees of freedom in the space. So you need mobility. So the 3 layers are free to glide. At the opposite, the distal part of the lateral part of the fascia lata, the 3 layers, they fuse and they generate this tight IT band that will generate also the lateral part of the capsule. So these 3-layer fuse have the aim to stabilize the lateral compartment of the knee because you don't need abduction, adduction. You have mostly extension, flexion, a little bit rotation. So the same tissue, it looks the same, it's just the minor alteration due to the ability of the different layers to glide above each other. Mm-hmm. So again, it's very important to explain that how is the anatomy, because if you don't anatomy, you don't fight. There is no conflict between stability and mobility. It's just alteration, a small variation of the infrastructure of the fascia.
That's a big piece right there, because one of the things I oftentimes say is, it's hard to create friction underwater, and so if we're a fluid system, the idea is for tissue to be able to glide against one another so that there isn't that tacking down, and that from those multi-layers, is it really possible that adhesions, is this what an adhesion really is? Is tissue that's getting too close? Is it a fluid perfusion problem? Is it a tissue deformation problem? Like, what really is it? Do we know in science what it is?
So we normally say that at this time it's difficult to recognize, not like a fibrosis, so even adhesion normally we can recognize with the MRI, ultrasound. It's something that is, it looks normal, but it's not. So we call like a densification, so increase of the viscosity of the extracellular matrix. So the lubricant that should be like between muscle and fascia, within the fascia, instead to be a nice lubricant, it become more a glue, And this will impair the sliding, so you will perceive a sensation of stiffness because the gliding is impaired. This can also generate an irritation of the free nerve endings, so you can have also painful outcomes from there. This can happen overnight because the hyaluronan, that is the chief component of the extracellular matrix, have like a thixotropic effect, like a ketchup. You leave it, get sticky. You shake it, get fluid. The hyaluronan have the same effect. So the first step in the morning, you feel like a little bit heel pain, a little bit rigidity, and then after a few steps, you get normal. What is? It's not arthritis. It's just the ability that you warm up the tissue.
Yeah, you work fluid into the sponge.
And smell that, and so the gliding will come back, and you feel like more like a smooth in the movement, and you don't irritate the free nerve endings, so you don't feel eventually pain if it's there.
So we know that fascia has a relationship then to inflammation and the inflammatory effects. Does fascia play a role in our lymphatic system?
I mean, it is. I will talk about superficial fascia in this case, because the lymphatic system tries to drainage, in particular from the subcutis. It will follow like the infrastructure that is made by superficial fascia, schemata, and then will go deep below the deep fascia. So, of course, the rigidity of the fascia can impair like the drainage of the lymphatic system, but also an alteration of the superficial fascia can be like the first moment, the first sign of a problem in the lymphatic system. So, different tissue, different problem, a different approach.
So one of the final ones I have, because I know a lot of people don't really know what melt is because they see a roller and they're like, oh, we're going to foam roll, until you actually understand what the methodology is about. And one of my fascinations has always been in the superficial fascia. If you just are a little more gentle with the body in the first onset of self-care, to become more aware of pressure, of tension, and to improve our own cognitive understanding of tension and compression. If fascia is a tension compression management system, that in the superficial fascia, which seems to act more like a sponge, if we could take time to create compression or tension that we're actually trying to bring a little bit more awareness to those more superficial layers, perhaps it's a starting place to move fluid flow in the fascial system and also impact our lymphatic health, our overall health and longevity.
Yeah, I mean, we have like as two tissue with two different function. I mean, superficial fascia is more related with the lymphatic system, with the quality of the adipose tissue, with the exteroception, so perception of the body from outside. So in case we have some of this problem, of course, like a more gentle, a more mobilization of the subcutis of the superficial fascia can be the target. And as well, like a fibromyalgia patient, I mean, it can be the only way to approach. I mean, you will not go to the deep fascia right away in a real, truly fibromyalgia. If the problem is proprioception, you have a lack of equilibrium, instability, functional instability, well, at that time, deep fascia will be the target. That maybe go together with a limitation of the range of motion. Okay, because deep fascia will be the structure that eventually will limit the range of motion and limited also the strength, because it will affect the muscle spindle firing. So we have before to understand what is the target, what is the problem, and then you will set up the treatment for that target.
Do you think that, so this is my last question, it's two questions. One, if you had to tell people one thing that they should do every day to prolong the function and wellness and resilience of their life, what would it be?
I mean, stretching after the evening, it can be useful. I mean, stretching can maintain the adaptability of the tissue. It doesn't cure, but maintain. Okay, so this is why a teacher of yoga, it can be in pain, because you don't fix the problem, but you increase your adaptability of your tissue, so you have a higher tolerance to disorder. So this can be, I mean, one suggestion that can be done daily and without any specific, difficulty.
Moving, right? We need to move. We just need to move. And then the last thing is, where do you see the Fascial Research Society playing a role in our, how do we get more of this information out to the general public? What do you think is going to be a thing for us to do?
I mean, we try to do our best, because this knowledge is for everybody. It has to be as soon as possible, because we are late of 50 years, basically. Okay, so we provide like a free webinar every Wednesday. There's a lot of articles, open source. I mean, we try to do our best to make information available, so to translate like a science in common plenty language. We have also done now the fascia fact, like 2 minutes to explain an article. With the image in a simple way. Everybody should understand. So it's all mechanisms that try to transfer like a basic science in clinical science in application in daily life.
Well, I hope that that's what I've at least done a little bit for myself, right, with MELT, is to try to bring that awareness to the general public. And I hope that we can get a little bit more of the fascial research out to more of the general public, because I think we're really making a little bit of headway now. This is our 6th International Fascia Research Congress. What do you think is the most common theme right now that's going on that you're hearing?
I mean, they are moving really in the problem of the viscosity. So they are really understood the importance of the loose quantity tissue that it was a little bit a chimera, but now they understood that is the substance that changes this viscoelastic property, and so it's something that affects your biomechanics, but it's not, proved with the imaging, regular imaging, X-ray, MRI. So this is why more probably people are in trouble to have a clear diagnosis of myofascial pain, because with the common investigation you don't find out.
Well, I hope that we are going to make that headway. I hope so, and I'm excited to hear. Are you speaking today?
I have done yesterday, the day before yesterday.
Yeah, now you're done. Well, I really enjoyed what you talked about the other day, so I really appreciate all of your work and everything that you've done to advance our society. So thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks.